Welcome to the last half an hour of the South African morning. Good to be with you. I'm Gareth Edwards. Middle class South Africans facing some very serious financial troubles, and it could get worse in the coming months. So we're going to try and see if we can't allay any further financial damage. The latest debt index from DebtBusters showing that middle class money woes are spiraling out of control. A lot of people now turning to unsecured credit to simply supplement their salaries, and I can assure you that is never the way to get out of trouble. DebtBusters Chief Operating Officer Benay Sager joining us. Benay, good morning to you. Appreciate your time. So why is the middle class taking out loans simply to get through the month? That doesn't sound like very good financial sense.
Thank you, Gareth, for having us on the show. It is a difficult topic, and I think it's easy to kind of look down and say to the consumer, why have you done this? I think in reality, there's a few things that are happening. Firstly, incomes in South Africa haven't grown for a number of years. They've actually been flat for all income earners. It's not just this particular group, but across all the board. And the pandemic hasn't really helped the situation. We see many consumers who've had to take 20, 25% pay cuts. So when we compare the income levels of 2021 to 2016, they've essentially been flat. Now, what this means is what we're earning on our payslip is exactly the same as it was. But on the other hand, when you factor in inflation, leaving aside CPI, because that's probably on the low end, but if you think about electricity and petrol prices over the last 2 years in particular, that's put a severe strain on the consumer. And I think consumer, in a way, is kind of being pushed to borrow more to make ends meet.
It's tricky, though, isn't it, Benay? Because I'm wondering if people are not, and I'm not by any means a financial consultant, far from it, believe me, if you've seen my credit card statement, is that people are unable to get through the month on the money they've got now. How are they getting these loans? And we're going to talk about what DebtBusters does to get you out of that mess in a moment. But how are they getting access to these loans when they're not even getting through their current debit orders?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, we are talking, as we say, like multiple things can be true at the same time. So we're obviously talking about a segment of the population who's been under severe strain. This would not apply to everyone. However, to answer your question, many of the loans that we would see are not necessarily loans that were taken out in the last few months, but they were taken out a year or two ago. And consumers hit hardship now. So they were fine, or they were getting by 2 years ago or 3 years ago, whenever the loan was originated. But now the times have become really tough. So we're actually, in a way, seeing a bit of a delayed effect in terms of the borrowing behavior of the consumer. And normally it takes about 18 to 24 months for us to see this.
Benay, just before I say goodbye to you as well, I want to always try and see if we can't leave our audience, everyone that's joined us this morning, with a bit of, excuse me, badly timed cough, not with a cough, with some advice on how they can, if they find themselves in the exact situation you and I are talking about, unsecured loans, they're not getting through. This is what a company like DebtBusters, I'm sure, can assist with. If someone's watching this, they're going, I'm out of money, I can't make ends meet, I can't get more loans. I'm really in a dwang here. What do you advise?
I think my advice, firstly, is if you are feeling like that, chances are you probably are in trouble. And I think it's important that it's a recognition of that you are in trouble is probably the first significant step. And we advise consumers to, you made a point earlier, to be aware of what they're paying for their credit, to be aware of their interest rates, to be aware of their statements. And, the easiest thing to do is talk to someone, like you said, a professional who can restructure all of your debts. And we have in debt counselling, particularly in DebtBusters, we have 3 levers at our disposal where we can help the consumers. We can work with the creditors to do this, change the interest rate, lower what you're paying on a monthly basis, and also give you longer term to pay all of your debt. And I think that's really important. I think it's consumers can reach out to us and we can see if there's an opportunity to restructure their debt in such a way that they will pay what they can afford.
Yeah, it makes such a difference as well. But I think out of all those levers, Benay, that is available, I think the first thing is communication. What a consumer cannot do is simply ignore the creditors. You cannot ignore them because they will come and take your house. But at least if you're talking to them, or through something like DebtBusters, you can at least keep the roof over your head and a car to get you to work. I really appreciate it. DebtBusters, Benay Sager joining us to talk about options. So if you do find yourself in that situation, don't do the ostrich in the sand thing. It's not going to work. I promise you. Get hold of like a DebtBusters or one of those debt counselling companies and see if they can't make your life just a little bit easier, because the banks aren't going to forget that you owe them money, I assure you. Let's talk about driver's licenses and the card machine. Yes, that card machine. It's